This conference will now be recorded.
Time being 4:45, I'd like to call to order the Board of Selectmen. Yeah, sure. The time being 4:45, I'm trying to wing it, see. I'd like to call the September 10th, 2020 meeting of the Tilton Board of Selectmen to order. Before we get started, if you're participating by phone or the GoToMeeting platform, please mute your microphone during the meeting unless you want to speak. Otherwise, the background noise will interfere with the meeting. The Select Board is meeting at Town Hall and providing access via GoToMeeting and conference call to enable the public to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting. Additionally, there's an opportunity for the public to attend the meeting in person. However, in order to maintain social distancing, only 8 spaces are available and attendance is a first come, first served basis. Once the maximum limit has been reached, anybody wishing to participate in the meeting must do so remotely. If anybody has a problem with remote access to the meeting, please email web@tiltonnh.org, which will be monitored during the meeting. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I would bring the minutes of August 27th to the floor for discussion. Are there any changes that any of you have noticed that should be made?
I did not see.
Okay.
I did not see.
Hearing none. I make a motion to accept the minutes of August 27th, 2020 as presented. Is there a second?
I do have one change.
Well, second it, and then we'll have a discussion.
Second,
Okay, there's a second. Eric?
just the way it's phrased here, I
Yeah, we
meant to
did.
bring it up here. Selectman Pirate, Eric, thanks Selectman Jessamine for coning off the porta potty. I thought it said coming off the porta potty. Never mind.
Okay, is there any other corrections to the minutes? Sorry. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're good to go on that one. Sorry. No, jump in anywhere. Okay. Thanks, Eric. I would make a motion. Okay, this is serious. No, this is serious. I would like to make a motion to accept a donation of $5,000 from the Franklin Savings Bank for being a new police station room sponsor. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Thank you to Franklin Savings Bank. Appreciate it. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. The motion carries. Next up is the DPW Director, Kevin Duval. Good evening.
How are you?
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Okay, so before I forget, 'cause I didn't write it down and I just realized I forgot to write it down. I was curious if the Board of Selectmen could come to the Public Works garage for basically a sidewalk so that I could propose some changes to the transfer station.
Right now?
Layout, no, not right now. In the future,
I was ready.
for my next meeting, if we could, before the meeting or after the meeting, if we could do a site, or at some point where everybody can get together, if we could arrange that, that would be great. because it's one of those things where if I could show you, it might be a little more, or a little easier to comprehend what I'm trying to accomplish.
Okay, well, we'll work out the details, no doubt.
So,
If one of us can't make it at that time, can you make arrangements?
Oh,
on
absolutely.
Individual, okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't want to forget it, and wanted to mention it at least today. So start out with, everything's going really well. I had some time off last week, feeling refreshed, so that's good. I do have a schedule in place for all of my guys to have their time off before the end of the year, so they don't lose any time, and so that they get their breaks that they need before going into the winter months as well. And everybody's working together, and I gotta say, our new hire is doing very well. He's already in the machines, the excavator, the bucket loader, multi-one, driving trucks. He's showing some initiative, wanting to know where everything is, learn things. So I'm feeling really good about that decision. So going forward, I mean,
Is there, you have one more than you had before, correct?
that is correct.
How is that working out?
It's working well. Technically, yes, I have one more, but that's
I
not the
think at this
case.
point, I just as soon save that for a non-public
Exactly.
session.
I just wanted to mention.
Okay,
So we're doing very well with accomplishing the projects that I have laid out for the guys. In fact, the time off that I had taken, I put a list together with my foreman, and they did very well with getting the tasks done in a timely manner. I didn't get any phone calls, I didn't get any questions about this or that. He really stepped up and showed some initiative as far as making sure things got done right. So I was very pleased to see that with my crew, being there. So
they did well at voting day setup, right? I thought.
I got some good responses about that as well. So yeah. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions for Kevin?
Just, the garbage or contract,
Yes,
he's working on that, so.
yes, it's up next year, and I am currently trying to get some solid estimates on truck additives. I'm trying to get 3 solid estimates for purchasing our own truck to start with, and starting that process. I hope to, by the time I solidify my budget, because I'm also working on my budget, I actually have my first meeting with Tim next Tuesday for the initial budget meeting with Tim, which I'll present those numbers and get him on board with that process and try to keep pushing that forward.
Yeah.
Which kind of coincides with my new plan for the transfer station. Everything's kind of coming together, which is nice to see with solid waste. We're starting to get vehicles ready for the winter season. The sanders are all prepped and ready to go. The plow frames, plows are all prepped and ready to go. We're just waiting for the leaves to fall, and so we can just start our fall cleanup. And everybody's eager to start picking up things and getting ready for winter. I have not received any quotes from our salt suppliers yet. The COVID situation has impacted them, which has delayed my getting the quotes or the contracts. I do expect to see them in the next few weeks, where I can solidify our salt contracts for the year. So hopefully by my next meeting, I'll have some information regarding that.
Okay. Peter, you had a question?
Yeah, looking at the report, I see cleared brush from ditch lines at numerous locations. Have we set up any sort of spreadsheets on some of these routine type things that we do periodically, whether it's annually, every 3 or 5 years, and all of the areas, whether they're roads, parks, et cetera, that pertain to them? So like for ditching, all of the town roads that require ditching, and then we can say, oh, it was last done here, we maybe need to do that.
Okay. I do not have anything currently.
Okay,
I did just recently start working with a computer program so that I can start utilizing that and printing out some reports to go along with my weekly report. So
Okay.
that I can show.
that's all I'm looking for is like a simple Google Sheets or an
Sure.
Excel.
Okay,
And if you have any of those type that have formulas involved, like when you want to do roads and stuff, if you want to see a calculator, let me know. I can work with you to plug in a formula.
sure, will do, absolutely. A little spin off on that question.
Mhm.
I did inspect all of our catch basins to see what condition they were in. And I think that we can go another year before they're cleaned. So what I'd like to do is actually postpone that for next year. And if that's the case, then we can be on an every third year situation with cleaning catch basins, not spending money frivolously or unnecessarily every year thinking that they need to be done. So I did an inspection of all of them, and lo and behold, they really don't need to be done this year. They can hold off for another year.
Does the fall impact that? Leaves and sticks and,
No, because the grates that are on top, I mean, it does a little bit, but the grates on top do a good job of collecting the debris. And we're on a pretty tight, a routine maintenance schedule with that, where we're always clearing them, so that we don't have water backup issues.
It's your road sand is your big problem.
Yeah.
Where they're using more and more salt, there's less sand, so that
And to be honest with you, we have the sewer spoons, and if the guys don't know how to use them, I'll teach them how to use them. For the one or two that we might need to clean, we could do it by hand. We're not beyond that.
some of the no salt roads.
other questions? Pat?
I just have one, just coming into town hall, I was gonna leave it with Jeannie,
Mhm.
the ramp,
Okay.
the white faceboard, that looks like there's one of them that's coming down.
Okay.
Throw some fix it.
Okay.
I was gonna leave it with Jeannie for you to take, but you're here.
Okay.
Item 2.
Okay.
I thought, when you put the line on Cedar Street to mark the sidewalk, I thought you were putting little stick people.
I wanted to get permission from the board first.
So did we say no to that?
I haven't presented it.
That's right.
Yeah, we haven't presented. That was on my list to talk to you tonight.
Okay. And then I gave you this anyway. The other one is, how come at our stop signs, we don't have white lines painted?
The stop lines and
Stop signs? Yeah,
That's a good question.
I don't think we ever did.
we did.
I think,
How come we don't have center lines on the town roads? That's to me even more important, so you know where to stay. We're gonna talk about
I just,
line.
I mean, no, that's a good point to bring up. And as you can see, I'm trying to bring the town up to compliance with a lot of things. So that's something I can definitely put on the list to do when we do our walking ban, or walking person. Or next spring, if I do get authorization to do so, next spring, when I do all the things. And have a list of things that we need to upgrade and bring to compliance.
So when you get the line sprayer out for parking it for the parking space.
Are they required, like,
Stop lines?
Stop lines?
Yes.
They,
Yeah, they are. Because you need to know, yes, you see, you have to stop, but you don't need to know where to stop.
Yep.
Which stops people from crowding intersections.
Yep.
And there is a violation if you go beyond the stop
line.
line.
But there's no problem with no center line, so we can have head-on collisions. They don't care, but you better, even though the sign's right here, I can't figure out where to stop.
Okay then. Are there any other questions for Kevin?
I do have another.
By all means, you have questions?
One of my last meetings, we talked about schooling for the guys. And I think I've come up with a viable solution for this new situation we're in with lack of classrooms and things like that. I have a monitor set up in the office, and my plan was to have 2 guys start doing webinars and web-based classes during a block of the day. because I have some people that just, if I leave it up to them, they're not gonna do it when they go home. Or they don't have access to that type of situation. So I figured that if I set up a small classroom at the shop, and then I could sign 2 guys up at a time. That way there, 2 guys could be in class, and the rest of my crew can be out being productive. Then I could put them on a rotation that way through Primex and some of the web-based stuff for the DES, solid waste, for their dump certifications, research, continuing education for that. And some of the T-squared classes are being offered web-based, so.
You have money in the line for
Yes.
training?
Yes.
How much of the money is left?
Most of that Primex training is free.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do have 3,000 in that line, so I do have some leeway when it comes to the schooling cost, if I have to, if I run into cost. Absolutely.
Okay.
And check with Tim too, because he gets the monitors and things from White Farm, so he may be able to. grab
Right
it
now,
or two.
I'm utilizing the one that he gave me that was kind of a surplus. It's just a TV screen that's compatible with, I guess you call it smart TV.
Yep.
So that's what I have set up now. And actually have our first class for Jack and John, not next week, but the week after, their continuing education for solid waste. So that they can have their research for next year.
Is the new guy solid?
He's not solid waste certified yet, but they did start a program for the new hires to go online and get, because before it used to be an all-day program. They condensed it, so now you can do it, and it was on-site. They condensed it and they put it on the web so that we can do our new hires and get them dump certified. So he's on the next available web. Steve did get his while he was out. So Steve is dump certified now. So that was, we showed some initiative and got it on his own, which was nice to see. The other thing I wanted to ask or present tonight is, I know downtown, we're trying to beautify downtown and make it a more pleasant experience for people to visit. One of the things that I think about is noise pollution. I know that motorcycles and loud trucks and cars and stuff, it's hard to regulate, but there is a regulation that we could set in place. That's the use of no Jake brakes on the big trucks. Now, it is a thing, because a lot of cities, you see signs as you come into the city, no Jake brakes allowed, no rigid brake allowed. And there's a reason for that, because a lot of these big trucks, they have so, the engines are so large, when they engage that Jake brake, blow the windows out of your house, because they're just so loud. I thought maybe if we restricted that use downtown, then maybe we could have a conversation on the sidewalk and not be interrupted by some truck that's coming through town and using their Jake brake. It's not necessary.
I've never heard that
No.
before.
Yeah,
There you have, you just don't know what it is.
And maybe
It's a
that's-
relative to that as it's, as soon as he lets off the accelerator.
No, yeah, all right.
You know, a lot of trucks have a switch. Well, they do have a switch because
Yes.
it's a safety thing. In the wintertime, you're instructed not to use a Jake brake because it can cause a skid. So every truck has a selector switch, you shut it off. So that's all they have to do. When they're in city limits, town limits, shut it off until they're out of city limits. It's very easy to.
Where there's no hills and all, it's, you know,
Exactly.
over by Sonel's and Franklin might be a different story coming down that grade.
So I did talk to Jeannie about it, and we did get the police chief involved. He's been asking some questions and doing some research on his end. I wanted to present to you and see what you thought of this idea, and see if we should push forward and get it done.
This is a problem?
I can tell you, living on a hill
Yeah.
Right there.
from the light, that in the middle of the night, you hear it a lot. It's
Really?
loud.
Yeah.
Cars do it too now. On the kids, you'll see they'll downshift on you. And
Motorcycles.
when you get the
Fire
buildings
cans on.
downtown with brick walls like that, it just, Yeah.
There's a lot of apartments downtown.
Mhm.
Honestly,
yeah.
I like the cars that have the big bases in the trunk and you can see the windows vibrate as they're going by.
Silver Lake Road's the same way.
I've actually seen officers follow people with the big base and they stop them and say, tune it down.
It's
Because
just-
there is a noise level here and they exceed the noise level. I've seen a couple officers follow.
I've seen those signs, you know, at different places, roads in particularly several districts or in downtown areas.
Rochester, Dover, Portsmouth, Littleton, all those towns. Concord, I think even has them.
Sometimes see just road sections also.
The residential
Yeah.
areas.
Thanks.
So I don't know if we have to get into maybe adjusting our RSA to include it in the noise ordinance, or if we can just decide to do it. So that's why. I wanted to
I'm
present-
sure that our town administrator would have a sample ordinance that we'd use, and
Okay,
it'll be researched before it ever gets to us on a regular
Generally, a
basis.
public hearing is what.
Yeah,
Before we.
I can't imagine the residents objecting.
sure.
Or the business owners.
Okay, so that's all I have.
Okay, all right. Do you have, Jeannie?
Yeah, I may have missed it, but I think Eric asked the question about the stick figure.
Oh,
Did
one
you
person.
ask the selectmen for support on that? I don't know if I missed that.
No, we skipped the rest of that conversation,
Yes.
but by all means, if you,
So
what is it?
I created we have a wheelchair stencil for handicapped. I created a walking person that we can put in our painted sidewalks to help people see and notice that it is supposed to be a sidewalk instead of just parking on it, randomly. So I thought maybe if I applied that stencil to certain locations in the Tree Streets area, where most of our sidewalks are painted, not raised, that it would be a good thing, a good visual aid to help isolate sidewalk road. There's another busy section right there by Cumberland Farms, where it's a painted sidewalk. You've got a lot of people that don't know that. So that was just another thought that I had.
Does any of the selectmen have questions about this?
I think anything that's going to enhance the public knowledge to get them to walk on the sidewalk rather than the streets. That's great.
Enforcement,
Enforcement, yeah.
because I can tell you on Cedar Street
Oh, sure.
and on Prospect Street, I went down the other morning. I'm gonna take a video one of these days, but it was, 3 cars on coming down the hill. They're all parked. And the line is faded. It used to be a yellow line. It's pretty much gone, but it's,
On High Street.
no, on Prospect coming down the hill,
Prospect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
almost
there's a
like-
motorcycle that parks on the sidewalk all the time. I bet it's there now,
Yeah.
matter of
I don't
fact.
even know if it moves anymore, but it might be rooted there.
Anybody else have any
Just so much that
objections?
it looks like the person is supposed to be.
No, I mean.
And not a crime scene.
A crime scene or Sasquatch.
Think we need a motion for this? No. Okay, if nobody objects, by all means, please paint away.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to cruising the neighborhood.
Just so happens we have some warm weather still, so I'm looking.
That's it. Thanks. Jeannie?
Another question, Kevin, I know you were out, so I don't know if anyone contacted you about the electrical out on the island, but the selectmen would like you to go check those boxes, the electrical boxes, because Josh, we did go back and look at invoices, and Josh Carter was supposed to repair or put new boxes on. So the question is, are they gone? Did they come off? So if you could send one of the guys down, just check and report back if we need to get them replaced, yeah.
Okay.
Perhaps maybe it's time to put a box on them and only use them for weddings or whatever. It it's sad because we've gone out there a couple of times before we had Josh and we replaced the covers. Some people were just walking away with the covers.
Or sticking things in the outlet and shorting them out.
Then it's useless for anybody else who wants to come and enjoy.
That's correct.
Why? I mean, it's useless. They're, what are they, 20 cents? Rolls?
Expensive, the covers?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably about 15, 20 bucks. What for cover? But can we turn the power off to those outlets?
Yes,
Because,
they
you know,
are off.
They are off, John.
So if we,
Breakers
because
off.
I was worried that if we put a lock on it, somebody's going to try and smash the lock off.
Could be, but they're sticking
But if
things
they're-
in the
if they're
outlet now.
disconnected,
But if we had a lock on the breaker itself, and then we only had, Allison had a key in the Selectmen, but then they changed the lock, so our keys aren't working for that. So if they called us, we wouldn't be able to
You mean
unlock it.
to tell me that Allison has the only key?
No,
We have,
you have. a
Oh,
key.
there you go. But somebody's
So
got
we
it.
would have to call them out on Sunday.
I think that what's going on as well is that people try to use the electricity, not realizing the breakers are off.
Mhm.
Then you've got the people that just vandalize, just for the sake of vandalizing.
Mhm.
So,
Sad but true.
And I think one of the questions on the rental is, do you need electricity? And then Gail would know that they need electricity.
Okay, if there's nothing else, thank you very much.
thank you.
And take care of
Kevin,
yourself.
for all that you do.
We're going to carry on.
Rest up, winter's coming fast.
Ooh,
Don't
say that.
Please.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right,
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
I love it.
And I just let Tim know that we're going to.
Okay. He has to come up.
It's that tournament. And I think, I don't know if we want to announce that now.
Yeah, okay. We are going to go into non-public. Time being 5:15 PM. I'd like to make a motion to move into non-public session for RSA 91-3, semicolon 3, paragraph 2A. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him. And RSA 91-A, semicolon 3, paragraph 2C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of this board, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exception shall extend to include any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy, if based on ability to pay or poverty of the applicant. We expect to be back in public session approximately 7 PM.
Constantine, second.
All right, is there any discussion? Roll call vote.
Constantino, yes.
Fogg, yes?
Jessamine, yes,
Fiber, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
and we are clear.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public meeting of September 10th, 2020, because the reasons justifying the need for the non-public session still remain. Is there a second?
Second, Constantino.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Pass.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion at this time. Can you hear me? Okay, now you can. To make a motion to purchase a IMC barcoding for the police department from Zurcher, not to exceed $4,100. Monies would come from the contingency for the new police department. fund.
Is there a second?
Want me to
I'll
break it
second
down?
that.
The details will be
Okay.
part of the public record.
Okay, want me to break it down?
Yeah, I think in this case I would.
So this would include a quotation for the TriTech. And it's the IMC law record system, barcoding police property for 10 up to 10 users, and project-related fees for training up to 10 users, and then an annual maintenance fee, licensing up to 10 users, 2 barcode scanners, and update installation for $300, the barcode scanners for $350, and a printer for $250, which includes the total amount for $4,100.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. All right, thank you very much. The time being 7:28. Tim, you're up.
Thank you very much. So what I have for you this evening is pertaining primarily to the Emergency Management Performance Grant. And I believe the board has seen the documentation in the to be signed folder and has acted on that, which I appreciate. So just to recap, the grant is for $79,931 with the match to come from the town, which is through the construction expenses of the new building. So the total award will be $159,862 once approved. It is for 3 things. So the first is a 175 kilowatt diesel engine driven generator for $44,790. Installation services for that generator, including a crane to set it on a pad, $2,931. And then for the exterior surveillance cameras and installation for $32,210. So there is a motion that I would request that the selectmen make, which is on the back of my report to you. It's E. Someone so move for the record and the documentation for the grant.
Eric, would you like to?
I'll make the motion. I move that we as the town of Tilton Board of Selectmen in a majority vote accept the terms of the Emergency Management Performance Grant as presented in the amount of $79,931 for the purchase and installation of a generator and surveillance equipment for the community's new Emergency Operations Center, EOC. Furthermore, the board acknowledges that the cost of this project will be $159,862, which the town is responsible for a 50% match, $79,931.
Is there a second?
Constantine, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions for Tim? This is your big chance. Pat?
Did we, I thought that the EMPG was 125,000. Did we not?
I can't hear you, Pat.
I thought the initial EMPG was 125,000.
That's correct. There were a number of things that happened in the original process with COVID, the COVID breakout. There was a resource drain within the project office in the EMPG project office, and so there were some delays. And then also, as we discovered from a timing perspective. And also from an eligibility perspective, what we were originally told would qualify was not going to qualify and the timing wasn't going to work. So we had to remove two things from the original grant, one of which was the dispatch workstation, about $50,000. And the second thing was the automatic transfer switch for the generator, because that's required to have electricity in the building prior to the generator being installed. So the switch was originally in that as well. So so in any event, this does not preclude us from reapplying, and there are some items of eligibility that we're looking at that we have a need for that are of a lesser priority, but that we fully expect to use a full $125,000 by the time we're done with, say, a second grant application.
Does next year start another grant application?
It does.
For another 120?
It does, yeah. And there are these rolling periods. So this period started January 27th, 2020, and I have no doubt that we'll probably be receiving more than the 125,000 in the end, because we can be applying right now for some other items. In fact, we can apply for a dedicated dispatch console, but that would likely be in the funding in 2021. So in any case, that's that. And then also, the timing was critical too, with the electricity for the building, and that wasn't something that was understood up front when we were originally doing the grant. So that came out during part of the construction process. So we adjusted for that.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? There you go.
Great. And then I just point you to a couple of other things in my report. So I'm hoping that for your initial 2021 budget, we'll have something to start talking about at the beginning of October. The budget committee met last night, and they are working on their schedule currently, but I think if the selectmen are working with departmental budgets during October, that will allow plenty of time for the budget committee when they finally get the selectmen's budget. Whether or not they've talked to department heads in the interim, that's up to them. But we won't even have insurance costs until probably the second or third week of October anyway. So just keep that in mind. There are a lot of unknowns that we're working with, particularly the operational costs of the new building. So that's something also to keep in mind. And then lastly, the financial summary reports for August, and also the MS4, which is our estimated revenues. I've got the estimated revenues pretty much done. I always like to try to push the time frame out as long as possible, because the more time that goes by and the more revenue we see, materializing, the better our number is for the end of year. But within the next week, in fact, I'll probably have that for you for your next meeting, the estimated revenues, and then hopefully I'll also have August financials complete for you too, so you can take a look at that. But I ran into a couple of snags with that, so it's taking a little longer than usual. And that's about all I have.
No, I was just going to ask if anybody had questions for Jim.
How are we going to figure the PD for 20?
How are we going to figure the PD for 20?
Right. So I've talked to the electrical consultants, and I think we can come up with a factor, and also looking at the additional equipment that we have in the building. So there'll be a number of new items that will be in the building that we don't currently have. So I think we can come up with an estimate. I guarantee you it will be wrong. But hopefully it'll be somewhere on the wall surrounding the dartboard within a proximity that won't be too outrageous or annoying to anyone. And then also, I'll just have to say too that I think it's a very strong likelihood that come towards the end of the year, we'll be talking about more services that are required at the time that we're actually making the move and the transition, because there's a lot of moving parts that are going on here. And there's not a lot of upside to this scenario. So, you think we're writing checks, it's all going to work perfectly when everything goes in, all the communications, all the phones, the computers, and everything else. And yet I sort of liken it to the interior of Big Ben. There's so many gears and wheels and other things. Looks beautiful on the outside, but you're going to need some help if you're on the inside. And that's what we'll be talking about a little bit down the road. Really making sure that we've got the appropriate resources in place to assist, to make sure everything goes well. Because the worst thing I can see happening is that we're trying to force a move on the cheap, if you will, when it could cost either time or additional delays or additional costs by one vendor getting into an argument with another vendor and us sort of being in the middle. So I'm trying to make sure that we've got as coordinated and as reasonable an effort as possible, but make sure that we also have the proper resources lined up should we need them. And I'm here to tell you, we will need additional resources when that all is going. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions, John?
Do we get money back from the school district?
No, so we won't. We haven't seen anything yet in terms of their fund balance or anything official. The budget committee for the school district is having its first meeting in October, and they're currently going through their audit right now. So I'm hoping that we're gonna have some indication at that point. It was apparent that because of their change in costs through this COVID, that we were looking at somewhere months ago. The budget committee was sort of looking at maybe a $400,000 or $500,000 return to towns. Now that goes back to all three towns. I think it's going to be north of $800,000, maybe even over $900,000. It just depends on how the dust settles and what the school board has had to spend in additional costs ramping up for school. So, where that falls, I just don't know yet. But it's going to be more than what we had originally expected. The issue that we're going to have for Tilton taxpayers is that we were already looking at a not as large an increase as other towns, as one of the other towns, but the effect of that may just bring us back towards a more flatter amount. I'm not sure we'll actually see an actual reduction. We won't see the increase perhaps, but we won't see a reduction in the school tax. But again, I don't have any concrete figures to go by. It's looking at where we've been, I think that's about the best case that we can hope for at this point.
So when the tax bills go out this fall, they'll still be reflecting the original amount for the taxes, and then well, they should get that
right. That should
done by then.
That will be done. That will probably be done in the beginning of October as part of the tax rate setting. So at least that's
Don't want to get anybody's hopes up that their
Right.
tax bills are drop drastically. But we are hoping that it
Well, as I said, I
would
think
reduce it.
our best case would be that we don't have a tax increase through the school. That would probably be the best for Tilton taxpayers right now.
For next year.
Well, in this tax bill.
Peter? Eric?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
All righty then. The next thing on the agenda is the selectmen's reports. And Eric, you're up first.
Hold on. I actually have notes today.
Nice.
At the election, the voting I noticed that all the poll workers, except for selectmen, had name tags. And it would have been nice, I don't know if it's something we can get, I don't know if it's for voting, but I don't know if it's something that we can get, so people know that they're talking to a selectman if they don't know who we are, or something, and I just didn't know if it's,
The poll workers, all that stuff came through the moderator's office.
right, but I just didn't know.
It's a good point.
You guys all right?
We could arrange that.
I'm sure we could.
So my next two, really, I'll just put an email to Chuck, because it was just suggestions out, standing at the entrance door for the voting, so I'll just.
Yeah, that's a moderator
Yeah.
thing.
I noticed that the signs at the Salmon Run were removed. And I'm curious about that, because we didn't go remove the signs at the corner of Colby and School Street. So just, I saw it in your report. Yeah, so I saw that, and it's in my notes because I thought of it already. So you guys all stole my thunder tonight. Driving by the area of Mosquito Bridge, that little pull off there, I don't know if anyone's ever complained about parking over there, but no one drove by there over the weekend, and it was pretty obnoxious.
When you say the pull-off, are you talking?
I don't know what that little,
By the lobster connection?
yeah, by the lobster connection.
Gee, that's
Over
never come
Route
up before.
Old Route 3.
Yeah,
Yeah, that comes up real regular, actually.
all right. I just.
That's an enforcement issue, chief.
Yeah, I mean, there were cars parked this way, that way. I don't know, they made it in parking spaces, so. And then just to update, I'm sure I don't know if any of you heard, but the Tilton Northfield Fire Department did accept the grant that was awarded by FEMA. So that was passed.
Was it unanimous?
It was. It was a unanimous vote, and
Ouch.
Yeah.
The one that's gonna cost you in 3 years.
Well,
big time.
that's for the fire department. He's just reporting it.
I'm just
Yeah, I
reporting.
want to know what it is.
What's that?
What grant is it?
The fire department was awarded a SAFER grant through FEMA, and it pays the majority of the cost for 4 additional firefighters for 3 years. It was a $925,000 grant.
Year 4, what do we get hit with?
So that brings enough employees up to, they can unionize and all that.
They already are unionized, but come to a fire commissioner meeting, we'll be glad to discuss it. I was just updating.
Maybe 4 meetings.
Maybe once a week. That's all I have.
That's all you have. Okay. John, you're up next.
So let's see, last night the budget committee met and Janice is doing a great job. She is really good choice for secretary.
Awesome job. I was online
For you.
listening.
All that was-
So one of the things that's coming up is that we're going to be scheduling the outside agencies. And there are going to be 3 or 4 a night. And she's going to let the selectmen know what that schedule is, so the selectmen can also attend to, so the agency doesn't have to go twice.
Can we record the Zoom meetings so that we could go back if we're unavailable that night? Or the go-to
I think
meeting?
we were planning on that. She said that they could do it so that,
If we have a recording, that's great.
as well as I think they're recorded automatically.
They record those budget committee meetings anyway, so.
And that also allows for agencies, if there's a problem that arises, we can have agencies do it virtually too. So we're well on the way for scheduling things. We're going to have the department heads to get send their draft budgets over to the budget.
They don't want the selectmen involved.
Well, they make their own budget. Because it's their budget.
Right.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to be, yeah.
And then there's the selectmen's budget, and then
Right.
we kind of work it out in
And we come in.
between this.
And we come in, right,
Discuss it.
with the department heads.
And let's see, that's about it. They got the burn coming up for the, up on Morrison Ave, buildings, the fire department announced that. All the trees have been cut down, including the trees that were supposed to stay. I didn't see any more flagging of the wetlands, that's all disappeared. And it's not going down a great path in my eyes. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Pat Constantino.
Well, I have a couple items for you tonight. Thank you, Joe. One is that got an email from the Community Action Program. Originally, they were going to open on September 17th. They've extended that now to September 24th. They're going to open the senior center for meals and programs. We have, did everyone get one? I think, Jeannie, that signed MOU finally from Ready, Set, Connect, the Autism Center. This is an agreement between the town of Tilton and Ready, Set, Connect regarding the designation for the Tilton Senior Center as an emergency outlet in case they needed it. We were back in June, they had asked us about this. We all signed it. We finally got a signed copy back from them. The other thing, I met with Sanditon Selectmen about the bus and the use of the bus and coming up with some type of MOU. They're extremely excited about it. They want to do something for their seniors. They want to be on board with it. I've been invited to a meeting sometime next week to talk about it, so they're very much on board. So I shall fill you in when that comes in. One item, Joe, we forgot to discuss in non-public, which we probably need to revisit in non-public.
I thought of that.
5 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Other than that, I think we're pretty much set. Halloween is pretty well on board, Chief. Lots of questions on trunk or treat, if we're having it. Downtown businesses are already asking if we're gonna have it or not. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Peter, you're up next.
One item. This Saturday, 11 a.m., Riverfront Park, the Wildlife Encounters will be there. It's a social distance type event. Picnic tables are going to be removed to help allow a little bit more spacing. That's it.
What is there, Peter?
What is it? The Wildlife Encounters?
Yeah, what animal?
They come with 7 exotics. There's usually a snake of some sort, a reptile, some sort of fox or something, a toad, alligator, could be a sloth.
I went to one.
Yeah, anteaters, there's different. Some of the animals you can touch, some you can't, based on fish and game. But yeah.
I'm good with the social distance. The alligators.
Oh, yeah. So they always
And then
social distance.
and birds too. There's usually like macaws or some of the big parrots.
That's 7.
11 o'clock.
Pat?
Peter, what's happening with the ball field next to the new PD? Is any more discussion on
Oh,
that?
thank you. I've asked numerous times and the Parks Commission still hasn't, even though we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, received a 24 by 36 front page, the first plan that shows the boundaries. So we know what we're working with. The only thing I ever saw was something this size that I couldn't read the fine print. And so
Do we have 24 by 36?
I would have thought with part of the, generally, when you do contracts, they supply plans. So apparently
We have plans.
We had
It's in a
plans.
roll-up plan.
Yeah, get a lot plan.
You said they've asked.
well, Parks has asked to get a set delivered. I've asked here, if we could get Parks a set of the plan so we could work.
Plan with the building.
Yeah.
So aside from asking for the plan for 24 by 36, which I'm sure we could get him a copy, he just needs the
So we
the
can,
field.
plan.
plan.
See where our property is and
So what, aside from that, are there any plans to resurrect it as a ball field or a football field or whatever?
the current, I think, leanings of the commission is to set up a softball field because the greater Tilton Northfield area has numerous baseball fields, but not softball fields, and it's a different mound. So if you force the girls to play softball on a Little League field, it's wrong because now they're set up high. So we're thinking of that, and we're also thinking of maybe setting up a couple of the Frisbee golf containers, you know, the chain things, so that people that are into that could go down there and practice.
Okay. Well, I committed to help working on it. I would be
Once we get the plans,
once you
which
get
we should
it,
be
I would
soon.
be more than happy to.
Yep.
Because I said,
Yep.
and I'll say it again, that I'm committed to
Mhm.
help bringing that back
Yep.
into a viable recreation
Sure,
piece.
no problem. Thank you,
Is that it, Peter?
I think, unless Pat has another one to get me going.
Yeah, there you go. Pat, Pat, do you have anything else? All right, good enough. Okay. I would like to know how the spray disinfecting thing is work. What's the procedure? Somebody comes by here every day and,
Every morning, once a day, first thing in the morning. John Willoughby does that. His office, so I'm not sure which DPW workers doing it. But basically, we got him coming in. At first, it was just periodically when there was a meeting upstairs. Now we've got him coming in every day and sprays the front area. Town clerk tax collector sprays the downstairs meeting room because we had people coming in using that space. He sprays all the way up here.
okay. The fire, the controlled burn. When they came here and talked about the burning, the controlled burn, the plan I saw had pumper trucks in the middle of the lot, and they were gonna pump water out of the pumper trucks. And my understanding was that they were going to pump this water out of the dry hydrants. But now I'm hearing, and I don't know, and perhaps you can enlighten that they want to attach to the water system. I'm not an advocate for the water system so much as I am concerned about exit 20's water potentially being cloudy and sandy because of the amount, 12, 13, 14,000 gallons on Sunday morning in a relatively short period of time. So I'm just saying I have concerns that it isn't thought out properly, maybe.
They flush twice a year, so if they're not maintaining their systems,
This is not a maintenance of the system. This is Sunday morning taking 14,000 gallons out of the ground in front of Chili's.
I think it's gonna be more than 14,000,
It's gonna
but
be more.
There's four 2,500 gallon tanks, that's 10,000 gallons.
Yeah.
They then propose to top off their tanks in addition to that as they go through this controlled burn. Again, just my understanding, I don't even know if that's for absolute fact, and I know we have a fire commissioner here that might be able to let me know.
Perhaps the same person has been to your ear, has been to my ear.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was raised at the commissioners meeting on Tuesday night, maybe?
Yeah.
Monday night,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Tuesday.
It was after voting, so Tuesday. And they met with the water department yesterday to discuss it. Yes, they will be hooking to the hydrant at the post office for emergency only. They will have approximately 22,000 gallons of water available to them that is on the trucks in those porta tanks. So they will, all the trucks that are there will provide, with the porta tanks will provide 22,000 gallons. They only need approximately 15,000 gallons for their work. If needed, they will use the dry hydrants if needed, or trucks will go back to their home base out of service and empty.
For the 10,000 gallons, for the 22,000 gallons.
Correct.
It's not coming out of the water system.
They're trying to avoid it at all costs unless everything goes haywire, and that's why they have one connection.
Yeah.
That's how it was explained.
Okay.
Gee, I wonder what the purpose of that $125,000 a year hydrant fee is for, if it's not for the water going through the hydrants. Just saying.
He's just saying.
There's a water commissioner meeting on,
We pay a fee every year for use of the hydrants. We have a use coming up. Why are we being curtailed?
please come to a fire commissioner meeting. That would be the proper place to discuss this.
Okay.
Well, first of all, who's we? It's the fire department that's using the fire hydrants.
Yes.
Remember the deal.
I know,
Okay.
but it's the water. Who's we in this? Us.
Yeah,
Moving on.
we taxpayers are paying that 125.
Okay.
Okay then. On a bright, cheery note, the concert series is over, and that's not the cheery part. The cheery part is that it was pretty successfully social distance. Everybody seemed to have a good time. I personally had a great time, and we raised between Emily and Dottie and Dave and myself over $900 for the senior center and their programs. So thank you all who came down to eat burgers and dogs.
That's a lot of dogs and birds.
That is a lot of dogs and burgers, but it was lots of fun. Hopefully next year we can go maskless. That is all my issues, and well, that's not all my issues, but you know. That means we're at 3 minutes to the good on the schedule. Go figure. Town administrator, you're up.
Yeah, hold on 1 second.
Not really.
Give it another try.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Speak right into it.
Start singing.
Go ahead.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Something.
So my weekly update, you got my
Lucy.
report. The new police station Cornerstone, you recall that Kevin LaChapelle suggested a cornerstone. I think he was going to make a contribution towards that. And he has come up with language for that cornerstone. What he's suggesting is that it says 2020 for the community, from the community. And that's his suggestion. I think Milestone would like to get this approved or something approved sooner than later because they say it's less expensive to engrave it before it goes into the wall. And if you bend down to the new PD, you see this is going up pretty fast. Any thoughts? Do you like that, not like that?
Anybody have any specific thoughts on it? I like it.
I like it.
Works for me. Either that or just 2020. But that costs less money, Steve. I'm sure they charge by the letter for engraving those things. Everybody like the, for the community, from the community?
But for the community, by the community, for the community, from the community. Either
That's what he suggested is for the community, from the community.
I'm kind of sad we didn't kind of think about this. We need to approve this pretty quick because the cornerstone is going to be going up.
I mean, personally, I'm
Yeah.
thinking more Joe's line, just put 2020 because all the bricks that are going out there are going to have comments,
Going in.
those quips. And that, just have a cornerstone of the year. I'm okay with whatever.
Well, Kevin is the one paying for this, right?
Kevin's paying for the cornerstone,
Well, if you remember,
Yeah, you have to.
yeah, okay.
but only if it said for the community, from the community.
What's that?
Only if it has this inscription.
No, I don't.
No.
That was his suggestion.
That's his-
I get that.
This was his idea.
I think I heard him say if they just had the name on there, or the date on there, it would be okay too.
So this came up because Milestone said we need to get moving on this. So I sent an email to Kevin and said, we need to get moving on this. What do you, since this was your idea, what are you recommending to the board? And he sent an email back and this is what he's recommending to. If you don't like that,
Didn't say that,
okay.
didn't say that. Pat, you okay with this? Eric?
Yep.
I'm okay. Peter?
I don't care either way.
Excellent. Let's go with for the community, from the community.
Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely.
The next item, political signs along Salmon Run on the right of way. So Chuck Mitchell had called and asked to have them removed. This was a week or so ago. I explained to him that this is state right of way, but it is the town-owned property which it abuts, and that only the board has that authority to say if they don't want those signs there. And I would bring this issue to the board, and they would decide what you want to do. He called the other day or sent an email, I don't remember which one, but he said that wanted to know if the board had made a decision. I said, they don't make decisions until they're together. So we'll be together tonight. And he said, well, I've already removed the signs. So I guess my question to you is, going forward, this happens in the future. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. If there are rights of way that abut town-owned property, do you have a position on this? Do you want them removed? Because as you know, I'm sure you know that it's illegal for anyone to touch a political sign unless it's.
If they put it on my lawn, I can remove it.
Well, that's,
But it's illegal for anyone, including Chuck, to remove that sign, all those signs. So I don't know what the signs had on it, but it doesn't matter what it had on it. It's illegal for them to remove those signs.
I would expect those signs probably to go back up again. That's why I'm asking.
John?
So since it's town property, the Board of Selectmen have jurisdiction on what signs can or can't be on there.
Well,
Correct.
it was on state right of way.
But according to the law, you have to ask permission of the owner of the property that the state right of way is
Correct.
on.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's a state right of way, but we have the authority to approve or disapprove
Yes.
what signs are on there. So we, as a board, say no signs, remove them.
I'm in favor of that. I mean, I don't support any signs in the fountains out here, in amongst the flowers. Any town-owned property, I don't think, should be carrying political signs for any candidates at all.
So no one should put signs at the corner of Colby and School Street.
Is that town property?
There's a little triangle right there.
it's not,
That's state.
yeah,
State, all bets are off.
yeah, those are both
Those are both
state,
state roads.
those are both class 2.
But town property, couldn't put any on the bridge going over onto the island or whatever. You know, couldn't put any along the road up at Riverfront Park, Salmon Run. There's a few places that they wouldn't be able to put signs.
I mean, the only thing is that we have given no permission for anybody to place signs on that property. Therefore,
But in the past, we have not taken them down either for years and years and years.
The only time it was an issue, TC.
Yeah.
At Highway Garage.
Yep,
You were around that.
yep. Huge issue.
Local law.
So I would say remove them from town property. Do we need a motion for that?
It would be nice so that it's,
Who would remove them?
well.
Public Works.
Yeah, in that case, it could be removed by law enforcement personnel, town maintenance, state, city, or town maintenance or law enforcement.
This is in a state right away.
Yeah.
Do we have the jurisdiction as a town to remove them from the state right away?
Did you hear what I just said earlier?
I know, but I don't believe you. Sorry.
Say what now?
You don't, okay, that's what I want to hear from you.
Excuse me, I'd like to read the law.
Go ahead.
Jeannie?
Okay, I have the RSA. This is 664:17. Political advertising may be placed within state-owned rights of way as long as the advertising does not obstruct the safe flow of traffic and the advertising is placed with the consent of the owner of the land over which the right of way passes.
I'd like to make a motion that we do not allow any signs posted on property where, even if the state is right away, unless we give express permission. See, and let me, after, if it gets seconded, I'll explain.
I'll second that motion.
So what that does is that allows us to put up the signs that say Salmon Run, which is actually, on the fence that could be within the state right of way, or if there's a pancake breakfast and it's within the distance of the
No,
right
it
of way.
doesn't.
This is political. This is specific to political signs. So I think if that's what the board wants, the motion would be no political signs on state rights of way that abut town property.
I'm going to withdraw the motion.
It's only political signs that you're doing that. You have the right to do, Salmon. You have the right to put them up.
So John withdrew his motion. Who's
Freedom of
seconded?
I seconded it.
Did you?
Did you withdraw your? Just
I missed
kind
it.
I don't want anybody's signs up in the town rights away.
It's not the town's, it's the state right of way abutting town property.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't
I'm
want.
more libertarian. That's state property. You have at it. Make sure you pick it up after the election within the allotted time.
Okay, as long as it's in the dirt, when it gets onto the grass at Salmon Run, I think it should come down.
The grass is part of the state right away.
Is there a
It
second?
was, just so you know, it was on the side of the fence on the road, on Route 3. It wasn't under.
I saw them 20 times, every time I drove through them. I don't like the idea that people get the idea that the town endorses any particular candidates. And when you put them right there, it seems like it's in the town park, and we're okay with it.
We've never said no to any particular candidate in the past. I just don't see why we have an issue with this one candidate. I don't know this.
I don't know how many
One-
signs are up
excuse me,
there, but I
one-
don't think that we should have them lining up
One
on
piece of
Riverfront Park
property. I
either.
just- Do we have them up in Riverfront Park? I've
Not
never
yet,
seen. I've
not
never seen
yet.
it.
But they could.
I think people are cognizant of that. I just don't.
Okay,
So you think that people should be able to put signs on right away?
It's, do you know how many signs? Look at Sherwood Drive. Look at, it happens like what, every couple of years?
okay. Democracy has spoken. So next is,
So what was
Well,
the-
you have to make a,
Yeah,
you have to make a decision. You're not gonna.
what decision?
What do
John
you-
withdrew his motion. I withdrew my second. So there's no motion on the floor. Is there anybody that would like to make a motion?
Okay.
There you go.
So then nobody can remove political signs from any town owned property without the consent of the Board of Selectmen.
Nobody can place.
It's
them without
illegal.
consent. Nobody can place them unless they get consent.
No, that's not true.
Well, wait, I think we're confused. I'm hearing town property and it's right of way, and that's,
They need.
it's on the
they need
right of way that
permission
it,
From the owner of the property, which would be us.
for the right of way, if you want to stick to the
Nobody can put them
statute.
up unless they get our permission.
Political advertising may be placed within state-owned rights of way as long as the advertising does not obstruct the safe flow of traffic and the advertising is placed with the consent of the owner of the land over which the right of way passes. So if that candidate wanted to place those signs at Salmon Run, they would have to call the town and say, is this okay? And if the town said no, then they couldn't. If the towns, and I guess for me, for direction, what is the direction of the board? If somebody called and said, do I say no? Or are you doing it by case basis?
I think you say no, you're opening up a whole can of worms.
You are allowed to say no
Yeah,
on your
You just
property.
read the
That's
law.
our,
I know that, but what happens if we say yes to someone?
that's what I'm saying.
We don't.
that's, it has to be blanket, yes or no.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Where are the other?
I say you let it go. The sign is not on our property.
And only if it becomes, if,
It's in a state right of way.
But the right, it's our property, it's a state right of way.
I think it's an issue if someone, say, puts up a 3x3 sign on 2x4s, and now you're blocking line of sight visibility, that might be an issue, but
Not if you angle it just right, and then it's just an eyesore, and they could line them up right along.
But the RSA says that a safety issue. I
Mhm.
mean, that's very
Yeah.
clearly, it
Correct.
states it says safety issue.
Where's the safety issue if they line them up right along the fence? Fence doesn't provide a safety
Is
issue.
it gonna block out the wildflowers?
That's not a safety issue.
It's unsafe for the flowers.
I mean, I saw this, when I saw the signs, they were up against the fence. And they weren't even, they were parallel with the fence, they weren't even like perpendicular to the fence. I don't think.
We could make it that they should not be attached, is one thing to any town property.
The ground.
I have no problem on the town property. My
Is it
issue
on
is
the-
once you hit the right of way, and once you hit the right of way, I'm hands off.
Was it on the road side of the fence?
Mhm.
Yes.
I don't know how you can control that. I
Did
really,
you say yes, it's allowed, or no, it's not? We have to decide, do we want?
We have enough trouble collecting the other small signs put out in those right of ways that don't follow our ordinance.
That means they can put them up in the fountain out here.
if they do, Joe, then we can
Ah.
use it.
Just, so the state owns the fountain?
No, it's
There's
town
no
property.
right of way out in the middle of the road.
The fountain is our property. They can't put it on our property without our permission.
Right.
The right of way is where it gets gray.
Are you positive?
This-
The state has no
Three-
right of way?
The state has a width of the road, which is the right of way.
Isn't the right of way go all the way
It's in
across
the
the
right
road?
of way, but it's
Yeah,
in
you
the
would
state
think.
right of way. They could technically tell us to remove the fountain, so somebody
Hey.
could put it in the fountain.
If it is a right of way, you've got sections of Route 3 that the state only has a right of passage. The property owners actually own the
We're talking
roadway.
about signs along the side of the road here.
Yep.
So
And if it's in state property, I don't care. If it's on our property, then I have an issue.
And in
So,
November,
we're
it's all gonna be over.
I'm going to suggest a motion that we allow them to be on the state right of way, provided that they are not attached to or in any fixtures or appurtenances. Yes. And as long as they're not, which would protect the monument, the island, that's our fixture, ordinance, then it's allowed. How's that? That's.
Is there a second to the motion?
Who owns the statues? Who owns, if that's our property?
Apparently, there is no second to the motion. So we have no position,
So we don't allow.
You allow it. We haven't banned it, so they're allowed.
which is no position for us.
And they can be in the statute.
No.
Which means
Only in
Nobody-
state
We own the
rights
statute.
away.
Yeah,
Only in state rights away.
correct.
But isn't that a state right away?
We don't know.
which means nobody, it's illegal for somebody to remove them.
That's correct.
Mhm.
You might inform the individual involved.
All right,
Moving right along.
moving right
Too
along.
late.
So I'm not going to go through the FYI unless you have any questions. I have a question for the chief. I know we have October 31st identified how downtown Halloween events. Have you identified the town-wide trick or treat?
So just speaking with the parents, some of the people that volunteer, they said they would have no problem having to
Talk
transition.
louder.
Can you talk the mic? This might be.
So, just a real quick touch base on the 31st. So I think the consensus of the people that volunteer and get involved with our 31st event downtown, they say thank you to the board because they feel like the kids really need this. I do too. They're all gonna have masks on in social distance. And I think after the year we've had, the families are really looking forward to this. I asked them what their thoughts were about having town-wide follow it. And I didn't hear any negative feedback, so I guess if the board's so inclined, we could allow that to follow. Typically, it gets dark. We've done this every year now, so I pretty much know by heart. It gets dark around 6:30, and the parents would start to leave. Some families would head over to Tanger, but Tanger's not doing their event. So when it starts to get dark, I could see the families and kids just transitioning to the back neighborhoods if town-wide's allowed.
So that would start at 6:30?
Yeah, that would probably start about 6:30. Once it gets dark out there, that's usually right around 6:30, 6:45, they all leave. And typically, if it's on a Halloween night, they're gonna go hit the back streets after that. So my opinion is I'm okay with both. We're gonna have extra staff on for the downtown event, so it's easy for us to transition and start hitting the back streets with them.
6:30 till 8 or 6:30 till 9?
Um,
Not 9.
oh, that usually one.
Stay out till 11.
Yeah.
I'll be on check.
Change costume.
Come on, we get an extra hour sleep that night.
Candy, sugar.
It's usually
It's just
all
not
over.
enough hours of sleep in a day. Trust me.
So there's 6:30 till 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm glad I asked that question.
I saw a cartoon today that had like people standing in their yard that had this long tube with candy just rolled down there and the kids had their back at the bottom of it.
And
I prefer the wrist rocket with the Jolly Ranchers and you.
the only other is not on my report because it happened later. We had a meeting this morning. Johanna Ames and myself attended a Winnipesaukee River Basin Program meeting where they're talking about changing the structure. The folks who are involved in that want to come and speak with the Sewer Commission and the Board of Selectmen. And Johanna, I know, has sent an email to the commission to ask about dates for a joint meeting with the board. That's it for me.
You okay? Is there any other things to come before the Board of Selectmen? I think we have one more item that we did not resolve in non-public session. That probably should be. So I would make a motion, the time being 8:21, to enter into non-public session per RSA 91A: 3
Personnel.
personnel. It's
Constitutional
2A. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Constantino, yes.
Fog, yes.
Chessman, yes.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
We are in non-public session.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome back. Time being 8:27. I'd like to see the minutes of the non-public session as the need still exists. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have dueling seconds on my left. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Yay. Is there any other business to come before the Board of Selectmen? Hearing none, motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See ya.
And thank you all very